have them sign into their computer. They ask them for their IP address. The minute they give it to them, their computer goes dark for a nanosecond.
Welcome back to the Team Look Fit Roundtable. I'm your host, Loretta Conlin, and this week we are joined by a very special guest, my mom. Say hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom. Hello, everybody.
And so little backstory. I put up a question box a few weeks ago, and I got a lot of questions about budgeting, and I was like, that's interesting, but a really good topic. And if you guys listen to the last episode me and Rick together, we did one on shopping addiction. So I just thought this might be something that's really relevant, and I knew you're coming up for your birthday this weekend, and you have a really extensive background in banking and money, budgeting, etc. So I thought this would be really fun to just, answer some questions. And I think a lot of people don't know this stuff. Obviously, I've, been fortunate enough to know a lot of the insides of, budgeting money, understanding credit cards, debt, how not to get into debt. But we really wanted to go over that today. So how long have you been in banking? I didn't want to say the number wrong.
Really don't want to say that. Over 40 years now.
Okay, I was going to say over 30, but wow, all right.
Yeah, over 40 years in banking in general.
And so lots and lots of knowledge here, but let's just start with the basics. I wanted to go over the basics of budgeting because that was where a lot of the questions were stemming from, understandably. So how do we set up a budget? What are some of the best ways to do that?
So the first thing before setting up a budget, I think you have to make sure that you are financially fit in all aspects, because setting up a budget is part of being financially fit. But starting understanding first, we like to make sure that our clients know what their net worth is. Some people don't even know what net worth means. So you have to take your liabilities, your assets, put them together, minus your liabilities out, and that's your net worth. And some people don't know what to include in there, right? So when you're thinking of your net worth, if you own your home, that's an asset, but it could also be a liability if you have a mortgage on it. Same with your automobile, right? Depending upon, we always say that cars don't hold value. But there is some value in that still, and you have to figure that out. So understanding your net worth first, then coming up with a budget, understanding your credit score. These are all important things before you even just run to making a budget, because your budget's going to change over your life. It could change within a year, but making sure that you're financially fit. So that's something I think that you need to understand first, and then know how to stay financially fit, right? Part of that, creating a budget, and that's probably where you're getting a lot of questions from, because in this day and age, a lot of people don't know how to create a budget. Where do we even start? So similar in effect to the way you have someone track what they're eating, writing everything down, that's what you need to do first, is track what you're spending. There's a lot
honestly spending, just like with diet, not what you would like to be spending. It's what you are honestly spending.
So true, because people will say, oh, this is what I spend, and you pull out their statement, their bank statement or their credit card statement, and it's like, well, what about this? Again, it could be something as simple as stopping at Starbucks every single day for $5 or $8. If you're not adding that up,
like, hey,
yes, I know what your statements look like. But no, those are things that do add up, and you don't realize that. So tracking your spending, the easiest way is to look at your bank statements or your credit card statements, and then putting them in categories, right? So first, being honest with yourself about what you're spending, and then putting the categories out there to the categories that have to be your fixed categories. Your mortgage, your rent, your car payment, the gasoline to get to work, all your utilities. Utilities not a fixed payment in the fact that it fluctuates, but it's fixed that it has to be there and it has to be budgeted for. And then your variables. So your variables are going to be things like you're going out to eat, any of your entertainment, you're going to travel. Those are more, depending upon what you do for a living, they could be wants, they could be needs, right? So you have to also figure that out. But taking first your fixed liabilities and your assets, making sure that you know what you're spending, and then figuring out how to create a plan for you. A budget for you may be, I just need to get by. This is what I'm doing right now. This is a job that's not going to be my forever job, but I need to budget within this for this year. Or you're going to budget for a family. You're going to budget for, taking care of an elderly parent. Whatever it is, that's all going to change. But you have to come up with your base first. Setting goals are really, really important as a part of your budget, right? So first we got to track. We got to figure out what we're spending, know what we're making. A lot of people don't even know what they make. When you say, oh, I just got this job, I'm making $15 an hour. Well, what is that? If you're working 40 hours a week, it's $2,080 a year, right? So you have to add that up as $31,200. I don't make $31,200. I pay taxes. I might have deductions coming out of my payroll for medical, et cetera, right? So you have to know what you make. So that is your net income, right? Then you've got your bills, like we just talked about, your variable expenses and your fixed. And then what are your goals? What's the goal to save money for what? Is it to buy a house, to buy a new car, to plan retirement? A little bit of all those things. And your goals should be short-term, medium-term, and long-term. Short-term should be something you should be able to accomplish within a year. So if that's paying off credit card debt, that might take a little longer if you really got yourself maybe some school debt or some, credit card debt that maybe something unforeseen happened, or maybe you just didn't know how to take care of credit when you first got it, right? But that's real important, which, when I talk to clients, making sure your debt is covered, most important before we go thinking about, I want to buy a new car or I want to move into a house, right? So you're also going to have to make a plan. Your plan's going to change, but your plan might have to be after you've done all that tracking, you might say, wow, I'm really kind of close here. There's not much saving that I can do. Well, maybe you can adjust. Maybe instead of having Netflix, Hulu, all these things that I don't know about because I don't have any of those, but Spotify, Pandora, maybe you take the free version and listen to commercials. Or maybe you don't have all of those. Or maybe if you're going out to movies all the time, maybe you do get a in-home, ability to watch a movie. So your goals, your plan is going to have to change, as do your goals. And the same thing is about your savings, right? When you're making X amount of money, everybody should be putting at least 10 to 15% away of what you make into some sort of long-term investment for your future, whether that's an IRA, your company's 401k plan, etc. But you may have to adjust that if you get a really big raise or a promotion. People always say, well, let me just keep putting what I was putting away. When you're young and you have no children, tank away as much as you can, because in the long run, to be able to, it adds up so fast. And the earlier that, as you know, I started you when you were really young, saving a percentage of any money you made. You also have the ability, which we can talk about later, full disclosure, I'm not a financial advisor, but I do have my license of a Series 7 and a Series 603. So I like to say that I don't like to give out advice if I'm not eligible to speak on that, but I am licensed. But when you talk about the ability to save money and invest money, it's totally different at an age that you are versus an age I am, right? Because you can be more aggressive, although some young people don't like to be aggressive because they're afraid of losing money.
My financial advisor hates me.
Yeah, he doesn't hate you, but he...
I'm just going to take all my money out and put it under my bed.
That's not a good idea.
Nobody listens to my advice. This is why I'm not giving
That's right.
advice.
No, you have to, but the whole way that you put money away also changes, based on, again, not just your goals of buying a home or putting your child through college or planning for retirement, but the length that you have to save. Someone like myself who would like to retire early, when that time comes, I have to change my whole portfolio. So you can be more aggressive because your timeline is longer, is what I mean on that. And then keep checking in really every quarterly, every quarter or every 6 months to really make sure that you're still on track and that things haven't changed. That's really what's going to help you in that budget. One of the things I'll point out, all of these things that I reference, I do work in the financial industry. I do work for Bank of America and Merrill Lynch, and we partner with Khan Academy. And anybody can go to bettermoneyhabits.com/Bank of America. And everything in there, from starting a savings account to making a budget to should you invest, how should you invest, all there, and it's all complimentary to anyone, whether they're a Bank of America Merrill client or not. So I think that's real important to know. And then also one of the bigger questions we get when making a budget is about emergency fund. We hear that we should have so much money set aside. And whether you're someone who has a steady 9-to-5 job that has the same income all the time, or someone who has flexible income, such as whether you're a server or you just have a side hustle that you don't know, you do Uber driving on the side, that's making extra money, right? Or that could be your full-time job, but your income is going up and down.
Even coaching.
Coaching, sure.
We have an idea, but
commissions.
Yeah.
Commission sales work. You sell cars. You're not going to necessarily make the same amount of money this month as you did last month. But what you should put away, in the industry, they'll say 3 to 9 months if you have a regular job that is, same salary. When I say regular job, it's not regular, but same salary, week after week, you can count on it. I like to err on the side of much more conservative and say 6 to 12 months of emergency fund. Can't always do it. Start somewhere. If you can only start with 3 months of those bills that you have to pay. But if you are somebody coaching or someone who's got flexible income, you're probably going to want to look at the 9 to 12 months. Again, starting on the smaller end first. But when you can have that cushion, you don't want to exceed that. Again, as we just mentioned, some people like to keep too much cash. And cash, while we like to say cash is king, really isn't in the investment spectrum, because you can't earn money right now. You're not going to earn anything in cash till maybe 2024 again. Maybe, because the way everything's going, it might be longer. And you're always going against inflation. So if you're earning 1%, cost of living is 3%, you're in the whole 2% by keeping cash. But you do need to keep cash for emergencies. So starting at 3 months, if that's all you've got, is better than nothing. But don't just go and invest, after you've got 3 months and then go aggressive. And then if you need money, getting it out of the market's a lot worse.
It's a lot harder,
Yeah.
So we'll put that link in the show notes for you guys, so everybody can access that information too. But yeah, I love it's always funny how so many things come back to the same principles. Like diet and habits are the same as budgeting. Like it's literally the same thing.
Absolutely.
Like you need to track it. You need to be realistic. You need to see where the holes are. Are you spending $5 a day at Starbucks? And maybe you can do that. Like maybe if that works in your budget, that might be a no factor for you. But if that's creating some debt or taking away from something that you could be putting away that money, well then maybe you need to make coffee at home. And
you can still buy coffee at home at Starbucks.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just about adjusting that to what you really need. So another thing, we already touched on it a little bit, but debt. So how to prevent it, and that's of course the first course to action. But then when we're already in debt, what are some ways to work out of that? And I guess to counter that, to follow up with it, would you still put away, say you're in debt, would you still put away that emergency money?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you are in debt, being able to save some type of money that you need right then and there is probably a good idea, but still be chipping away at the debt as well.
Absolutely, because the emergency money is really there not to pay off the debt. Hopefully, like you said, how do we avoid getting in debt? Don't
Prevent it.
Yeah, you can prevent it by not spending
More than
you have. However, emergencies come up. The refrigerator breaks. The car engine breaks. You've got to get to work if you don't fix that, right? So there are some things that you will go into debt potentially. Might be, again, debt that you could pay off over the next 2 months. Maybe you get a bonus at the end of the quarter, something like that. or it's something that could take a lot longer. But if you don't have that emergency money set there for expenses, God forbid you get really sick, you lose your job, something happens. COVID, nobody thought they were going to lose all their jobs, right? Nobody knew if they were going to get money or help from anywhere else. That's why you want that 3, 6, 9, I like 12 months worth of savings set aside. And if you have to use that, then you replenish that. But debt, so there's a couple ways to attack debt. And I'm assuming most people use debt as credit card debt is what we pretty much think of. You could have debt that you owe family members. Hopefully you're not paying them a high interest rate. Credit card debt can be one of those things that you can snowball into over a period of time because you buy all these things, you see the minimum payment due, you pay that minimum payment, and then you get that card and you're like, what is going on? That statement. Over the past, I think it was in 2016, one of the bills that was passed to help creditors be able to help clients. At the bottom of every credit card statement, it will always tell you, if you only pay the minimum back of what you owe us today, this is how long it will take. And it's eye-opening. Yeah, it's on everybody's statement. It's usually, it's the front statement is the one, front page tells you what you owe, has what you've spent. There's usually 4 or 5 pages, whether it's electronic or not. And that's really eye-opening to look at that and say, oh my God, I could be paying, 23 years because I bought all that fancy furniture to decorate my apartment when I could have went to IKEA. So again, spending what you can afford. But to attack that debt, first and foremost, again, the same way you would take your list of your spending, take all the debt you owe to each company, line by line. Find out what the interest rate is. Again, on your statement, it's going to tell you. And there's usually categories. So if you took a cash advance, let's say you really were in dire straits and you needed cash from your credit card, please don't do that if you don't need to, you're going to have a higher rate many times on that because you're borrowing at a higher rate versus purchases, right? So you're going to look at the bottom of your statement, see what the rate is on what you're paying. If you happen to have some old legacy credit card that you've had for 15 years and you find something that is under the teens, never get rid of that card. Even if you don't use it for purchasing, save that one for your emergency. I run into clients all the time that have, it's called an APR of 6.24, let's say. Normal APRs right now are 13, 14, 15%. I always tell them, keep that card. Not a good card to use, which we'll talk about purchasing on cards in a minute, but a good card to keep for emergencies. So after you've listed everything that you have spent and you now owe and the rate, now let's whittle away at it. If you have a small, really, really relatively small bill, pay it off. Just pay that one in full. Regardless what the rate is, you don't have to worry about the minimum payment. But then we like to really just look at the highest interest rate first and start chucking away at that. But you've got to pay the minimum balance of every credit card every month and on time. And that's because it's going to affect your credit score, which is golden. That if you even miss one payment, which is called a 30-day late, you can really see your credit score drop. Now, the interesting thing about credit or credit card payments is if you are late one day, they won't report you necessarily to the credit union, but then you're going to get charged all this extra interest. So you get that interest free for a month. That's why it's nice to put on credit cards, really 45 days if you think about when it's due. And then as long as you pay it all off, or at least pay the minimum, you're paying up to that time. So important to chuck away at the highest rate first. Always pay the minimum payment on time. And then if you can, let's say you have 4 credit cards and they all have about the same rate. Pick one of them to pay off first, just so you get the one done. But every other one, instead of paying the minimum, pay a little more than the minimum. Whether that's $25 or more, you'll see how fast you can pay a credit card down by paying that extra payment. So that would be, and then the other, if you're really in a spot where you can't figure it out, there are a lot of companies. Bank of America is one of them, Capital One, Many of the other banks out there offer a 0% credit card where you can transfer debt. So you can't usually transfer, say you're a Bank of America client and you owe us $25,000 on a credit card. We're not going to give you another 0%. We're not going to take our own debt and give you 0%. But let's say you come to us and you have, Wells Fargo, SunTrust, Truist, the building we're in today, debt, right? And that's at 14%. We may give you a credit card at 0% for 12 to 15 months, which is great. It's giving you that reprieve, right, to be able to breathe and not have to pay that payment. But if you just put it on there and don't check it out in the 12 to 15 months, you're back at square one again, and now you're going to have our interest rate of whatever our rate's going to be. But that can help people in a pinch. We've done it a lot during COVID. People that knew they were going to get their jobs back, they were going to get more hours back, or whatever it was, put them in a 0% card. We take their $8,000, divide that over 12 months or 15 months, whatever the program was, and have them start chipping away at it. And then you have, again, revisit that, making sure you're always, it's the same if you go and buy furniture or a car, they may say, 0% now for the first X amount of months. If you go 1 month after that excess month that they gave you, it just goes all the way back. So that would be my idea on paying off debt. First, the smallest part, if you have a real small one, pay it off, highest rate, and then look for a 0%.
Yeah, and then obviously, to go back to the first point, trying not to get there in the first place. Understandable though that there are certain times in life where you have to take out a large sum of money. Yeah, shit happens. Or if you're trying to start a business, you're going back to school, or obviously, school loans are huge. The interest rate on that's pretty low though.
School depends,
but
so
you really need to read the fine print.
Yeah, you do, because there's Sallie Mae and there's different backed loans. Also, you'll find a lot of people will be targeted and say, hey, let us help you refinance your school loans, or you could maybe extend them, but they don't realize then is you're not getting that same rate. And it really will ton all that interest on the back
because the interest is what is killing all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, it just ends up being so much.
And I learned a valuable lesson being in banking all these years, never having had a student loan, and thank God you never had to have a student loan. But I remember some of your friends who had student loans, and I remember being so surprised that they let you use that money for just about anything.
Oh, yeah.
Holy shit, like that. I mean, you had friends that were going on vacation with their student loan money. I'm thinking that's the most ridiculous idea in the world, because a student loan, if you need it, it's great. But to pay your tuition, to pay your living,
but they don't care because it's backed by the government, so they know they're going to get it. But
you're going to get it, but you've got to pay it. And again, if you come out of school and you've got mountains of debt, and you're not going to be, some fancy plastic surgeon where you're going to make all the money back, and you don't pay that, there goes your credit score. And we talked about cash being king. Quite honestly, credit score is king. And that's one of the things, when you talk about staying financially fit, knowing what your credit score is, everybody is entitled to a free credit bureau every year. Government allows us to have that. They cannot make you pay for it. A full picture of which credit bureau is at creditbureau.com. You can get one from all three of the credit unions. They do usually report together, but there could be something on your Experian that's not on your TransUnion, that's not on your Equifax, right? Those are the three. But knowing why your credit score is what it is, anywhere from a 350 range to an 850 range, 850 being on the highest. People always ask me if they can get higher. They want 1,000. Don't know why. Because honestly, I literally have husbands and wives who say, why is her score 2 points higher than mine? I don't know. But the things that make a credit score are very interesting. But what's most important to know about a credit score is that really anything over 740 is no better than 740. So when you're going for the biggest purchase out there is a mortgage, usually you're going to get the best rate at a 740. Some small boutique banks might look at a 760 a little higher and still give you a little better discount. Usually it's 740. you're not going to usually get a mortgage unless it's a VA or something, a government-backed loan. If you're under 620, and if you do, you're going to pay a really high rate. Same with credit cards, right? So understanding what your score is and how to keep it high is also just as important as keeping it that way. So you have to understand that a lot of times people say, I'm just going to keep one credit card because if I have one credit card, I don't trust myself otherwise and I want to spend on this one card. Perfect if you have other credit cards that are out there that have already been used, because the Bureau is going to look to see that you have trade lines. So you want to have numerous trade revolving, which is what a credit card is, trade lines. But also, if you have a limit on a card, we use 10,000 as an example, and at the time the Bureau comes in to take a snapshot that month for your score, let's say that was the time that you went out and bought furniture, $6,000 worth of furniture. You have the money in your savings, you saved that, but you're going to use your credit card for points or for ease of purchasing, right? I'm going to walk into American Signature with $6,000 in cash, right? So you could. I've seen it done. My father was the cash guy. But at that time, and now you say, well, now I have 45 days before I have to pay this off interest-free. Why wouldn't I, right? My credit card bill's not going to be due. But now the Bureau comes in, snapshots that right then and there. You just paid $6,000. It's a week out. They don't know that you've got the money in the savings to pay it off. They say your utilization is 60%, right? 6,000 of 10,000, 60%. And that kind of puts them in a danger zone. Like, what is this person doing? They've always been spending 1,000, now they're at 60%. Your credit score might drop a few points. And when I say a few, it can be anywhere from 5 to 15. Also, edge. Yeah, if you're looking to get a mortgage and buy a house at that exact timing, you could have just now put yourself at a difference of 0.25% or even 0.5% higher on your mortgage rate that you're going to keep for 30 years, right? So the other thing is making sure that your longest piece, I tell people this all the time, the first credit card you've ever taken out, that's the one you never close, because your history on how long you've been in the Bureau is vitally important. So if you close that first credit card out, now you don't have that history and everything looks new. So the credit bureau is like, well, who is this person? They don't recognize that you had that, right? So you want to have at least 3 trade lines, and you keep them active in the fact that you don't have to use the cards all the time, but use them at least once a year. Keep the purchasing power, your limit. If they offer you a higher limit, as long as you trust yourself and you're not going to go crazy, take the higher limit. And then when you are buying something that might be of a high amount that you can easily pay right off, you might want to pay it off faster than the 30 days. You don't want to, give up the free money, the interest free, just in case you think that could affect your score. If you're not buying anything, if you're not looking to buy a house or a car or anything in the really near future, dropping a few points is not going to be a problem, because the following month those points will go back up. Another question we get a lot about is, well, if I apply for a new card, isn't that going to affect my credit score? It is. It's a hard pull. A hard pull is done anytime anyone's issuing you credit. So that's going to make your score drop. A soft pull is when you go to get a job. They're going to ask you your social security number, and they're going to do a soft pull on your credit just to see how you stand and your credit worthiness is. It tells you a little bit about your character sometimes. Doesn't mean they're not going to hire you, but a soft pull is not going to drop your points on your credit score. And then closing out a lot of credit cards, people that have gone through credit counseling, bad debt, a divorce, whatever it was, and all of a sudden starts closing everything out. Again, I tell people to pay them off, tuck them away. If you really feel the need to close some of those out, close one out, wait 3 months, close another one out, keep monitoring your score. Again, not to keep plugging Bank of America, but I think a lot of other banks, I don't bank at any other banks. I love to plug my company, been there 28 years. We have on our website, when you sign into your online banking, you can see your FICO score right there. And that's always really nice. So you don't have to do the full pull, once a year you can do that, but you can see if anything happened. That also is indicative of somebody hacking into your identity. And if you saw your credit score all of a sudden changing, and you've done nothing, you might say, whoa, what's going on? Did somebody get a hold of my social? So that's another thing.
Yeah, and credit cards, I know. So obviously debit cards, a lot of people will go towards those because maybe they have had a spending problem before, right? And they say, I don't want to tempt myself with this. A debit card is better. And it might be for certain times for certain people. But with credit cards, there are benefits, not just for building credit, but obviously the points as well. Because I think that's, something that, you don't even recognize, but over time, you're like, oh, I have a free flight or I have $500. And that is really nice. And that can just be either money to pay off other things, or that is just savings. Like, hey, this is basically free money that I accumulated.
For using that company's card, right? So I think when you look at cards, and I do a lot of card strategy with clients that are either existing clients or clients who are coming to us, they're coming to Merrill, coming to Bank of America, and they get their statements. I can see, and I can see people's lives. It's like reading tea leaves when you look at a credit card statement. But you have to first ask yourself, if you're taking out a card to use, like you just mentioned, for everyday purchases instead of a debit card, what's important to you? So is it points or is it cash? A lot of people say, oh, I love my United Airlines card because of the points it gives me. Points for what? For traveling. I get free tickets all over. Okay. But if I gave you free money, you could buy your same plane ticket. Now it doesn't have to be on United, let's say, and there might not be any stipulations. Would that be better? Maybe yes, maybe no. It depends how often you fly. But a lot of times, I go up against, and one of my dearest friends works at American Express, so nothing against American Express, but people who like the status of the American Express Platinum card, right? Used to be a $550 annual fee, going up to $695 this year. And people, I say, why do you have that? Oh, well, I get all these benefits. Do you use them? I don't know. Then how are they benefits, right? Well, I get $200 a year on Uber. Do you use them? I don't know. Do you use them the way they give them to you? I don't know. Do you know how you can use them? I don't know. So then why did you take it out? Because somebody told you it was a great idea? You have to know what the benefit of the card is. But so that's just when you're picking your card. In general, though, the question of using a debit card versus a credit card. Debit card, why I like it and why I don't like it. I don't like it because it doesn't give you any points, number one.
Or build credit.
Yes,
just
you are correct. It's not building you any credit. Having the credit card is building your credit, and using it is important, of course. But I'm just saying, if somebody was afraid, you could have a credit card, use it once or twice a year, still building your credit, but then say, I don't trust myself. I got myself into a lot of trouble. So if I go shopping, then I'm not going to perhaps pay it back at the end of the month because now I bought those fancy shoes, but I need to pay the electric bill, right? So a debit card forces you, in a way, because again, you could be an ass about your money and have money in your account, still go buy those fancy shoes. At the end of the month, now the electric bill's done and you don't have any money to pay because there's nothing in the checking account. It really comes down to being smart with your money. Why I don't like it also, though, is because I do not want to give the impression that a debit card is not safe, because it is safe. It's encrypted, right? When you use it, it's encrypted. But I use the fact that people get hacked. You saw really big companies this year getting hacked, right? Colleges getting hacked. When somebody's hacking into those companies, they might be getting your information. If somebody gets your debit card information or access to your debit card, which is tied to your checking account, perhaps even your savings account, they're breaking into your house, right? They pretty much, here's my wallet, take anything in there. They steal your credit card information. They're still stealing. They break into your garage. Haven't gotten into the house, right? Everything's protected. A credit card, you call the credit card company, they stop it, still have to file paperwork perhaps, maybe verbal, maybe online, but it's not really your money, right? You had it happen to you, I've had it happen to me, where somebody got a hold, in your case, they had went to a jewelry store or something. In my case, they went to a window store, right? And spent a lot of money. But as soon as we called the bank, it was locked up. Now, I had my personal checking account attacked one time in 28 years. That took a little longer. The fact that I worked there and was on top of it a little faster stopped it. But it was a violation. It was really somebody violated me. They got into my checking account, getting into my house, right? So that's one of the main reasons that I also don't like it, is what I would call the safety factor, but I do not want anybody to feel they shouldn't feel safe with their debit card. But the other thing is protection. Protection in the fact that when you use a credit card, we'll use Visa as an example. Visa is a company, right? But Bank of America has Visas, and Wells Fargo has Visas, and Capital One has Visas. Everybody has a Visa. Each Visa card has a different level. So there might be Visa Signature, there might be Visa Elite, right? All those come with all kinds of insurance protections that you're getting not necessarily from the bank. The bank's giving you the points, right? If you get points for using a card or cash back, that's a gift from the bank for being their client. But, again, things you may or may not remember, but one time you had a pair of Beats headphones, cost $300. One of the ears went kaput. Not both of them, right? It was after the warranty period, right? But our credit card had an extended warranty on it. And then, we had to file a few little pieces of paper. They sent you a check for $199 to get that fixed because that's what Apple said it was going to cost. And it wouldn't happen if you used your debit card or cash, right? And it can be little things. I did it. You wouldn't remember because it really didn't apply to you as much as me because I was paying your bills back then. But it was a hair straightener. It was $70. It broke after 14 months, and we got a check for $70. So those are the things. Trip delay. You're stuck at the airport. If you're stuck at an airport for a certain amount of time, sometimes the airport will give you extra money or a box lunch or something, but your credit card will too. Your credit card will give you up to $200 some cases to go buy food and drink, lost luggage, medical evacuation. Nobody thinks of that, but I've had many friends that have gone off a cliff on a snowmobile or had to be medevaced off of a cruise ship. It's very expensive, but if you paid for that cruise with that credit card, it's covered. Not from the bank, but from the card. So that's all that information when you first get the card. But anytime you have any doubt, you just Google your own credit card company, and it's called Benefits and Rewards. It's all right there. So that's part of the reason, not to mention that you get free money or points when you're using a credit card.
Yeah, so obviously there's going to be times where debit might be useful and understand.
Or cash.
Yeah, cash is useful too, so you have to be prepared for all of those things. But don't be afraid of credit cards, and you can really strategize and use them in a good way to actually get a lot of stuff.
Absolutely.
The last laptop I got, I had accumulated so many points, which we transferred to money. I pretty much covered almost my entire laptop, which was pretty awesome. Yeah. So it's stuff like that you don't even think about because I'm spending money as a normal person on that card. Yeah. But you're able to get that back. One thing I did want to touch, which is not credit cards or debit cards, but Zelle or just money transfer apps. So the first one that was really popular was Venmo. Then it became I think it was Cash App. I think there's a few of them, right? Venmo, Cash App.
Even PayPal. PayPal's one of them in a sense.
But the automatic just transfers, right? And the banks have their own, which is called Zelle, and I don't know how many banks are on there, but I think most...
Started with 30, but now most banks and credit unions have the ability to have it.
So what is the difference of Zelle to Zelle versus a Venmo or a Cash App?
So the first thing and the most important thing we talk about Zelle is that is bank to bank, so you're not exchanging any information with a third party, okay? So Venmo, PayPal, anyone, you have to give your routing and bank account number, right? So you've just, again, opened yourself for them getting hacked, right? And them being able to steal your information. Venmo, I don't want to say I'm against Venmo, but I'm very much pro Zelle, and not because my bank was part of it, but just how I know that it is one of the safest ways. And in some cases, it's faster because it is the fastest way to get money. Not to say Venmo clients can't get money fast, but they're paying for it. You know, when you think of Zelle, P2P, party to party, it's going from me to you, and it's there in a matter of seconds. Venmo is doing this, right? It's like the triangle. It's going up to Venmo heaven, and then the cloud, and then if you've paid a percentage, you might get it faster. I've already sent it, but you might get it faster on the acceptance, right?
So
you have to pay a fee for that.
PayPal does that.
Right. So why pay them a fee when you can Zelle? You know, when Venmo first came out, like you mentioned, it was one of the first ones. All the college kids liked it, you know, because they could put a little emoji of a pizza on there. Like, really gives a shit
about that. It is convenient, though, to have a cash transfer. Like, if you're with friends and they can't split it. You're like, hey, I'll just send you the money. Like, that's super easy.
Zelle is fabulous. I mean,
like
your grandmother asked me to do that today, right? Like, can I Zelle somebody for her? And a lot of times, like, so you can be in the cashless world, right? Going and getting your nails done, a lot of places, or a hair salon, they'll charge the service, but they won't allow you any longer to charge the tip. Why? Because the hair salon is actually paying money for you to, you know, that's the whole idea of the credit card, right? You don't pay. So you're zelling the tip to your hairdresser or to your nail tech or your masseuse, whatever you want to do. It's a lot easier, but it is safer, and it is 100% free. But full disclaimer on Zelle, Venmo, or any cash app, if you're buying something, you know, when it's gone, it's gone. You know, it's like handing somebody a $20 bill. So do not, you know, it's really Craigslist or any of those kind of things. Don't pay for it before you have the item in your hand and you know, like, hey, dude, I see this, you know, this bike does have two wheels and not one, you know, like, I want to make sure it really works first, you know, don't, cash out me or Venmo me or Zelle me before you get here. Yeah, no, that's like not going to happen.
Especially resale stuff. You never know what pictures are often.
Yes, and also,
often better.
That's right. And also, too, when you're using any of those apps or just your bank apps in general, never be on a public Wi-Fi. Ever, ever, ever.
Use your LTE, turn off Wi-Fi.
Turn off.
If you have to do something where it's not secure Wi-Fi, you do it on your phone, just make sure, because sometimes things auto-connect and you don't realize it.
Oh, absolutely.
So go in, turn off your, just scroll down, turn the Wi-Fi off, and that's even, use that over a computer.
Absolutely.
If you're somewhere that is public.
Yeah.
Don't access your bank in public places.
Should never. Even in hotels, people feel like, I'm comfortable. I'm in my hotel. No, you're not. You're on a public Wi-Fi, and they can pick that shit up so fast and drain your accounts. And we have had a rash lately. Sadly, it seems to be hitting the elderly, where we're all getting all these spams on our phone or these calls.
Yeah, the person's name.
Yeah, but now, because everybody's been home, more people have used Amazon or Walmart to shop or whatever, and they're like, oh my God, we totally overcharged you, and we need to make sure that we get this money back. And you're like, what? What are you talking about? And then they have you right there. They've got you on the phone. They have you go to your computer, and I mean, literally, 2 clients back to back 2 weeks ago. Was the same conversation, almost identical. They have them sign into their computer. They ask them for their IP address. The minute they give it to them, their computer goes dark for a nanosecond. They're logging in, and they say, go to your bank's website. This case was Bank of America. Went to the Bank of America website. They said, see in your checking account where you have $26,200? And they're like, yes. We were only supposed to give you $200. You owe us $26,000 back. And the client's looking at it and they see the money there. They're like, oh my gosh, you did do that. And they're like, giddy up, get to the bank, go wire us this money back. And they do, and then it's gone. What's happened is they've transferred the money because they captured your keystroke. Once they had your IP address, they put TeamViewer, locks into your computer this fast. I know part of this is going right over.
No, I get it.
Okay.
This sucks.
Yeah.
It's so annoying. Like,
it's so annoying,
people.
but how they did it, they actually, what they've done is they've moved the money from your savings account to your checking account or from your brokerage account over there. And then you're like, how could they do that? Because they captured your keystrokes, which is your password. So don't answer anybody. Always, if somebody tells you they've overpaid, say, just hang up, go, don't even call them back. Go to the website, go to your account at Amazon, and 9,000%. Nobody's going to do that. You know, my one client, she was an elderly lady, and she basically told the man to go piss off. She knows that she didn't, there was no mistake made, and et cetera, et cetera. Still wound up calling us, and we confirmed that it was. And then the other client did wire out $26,000.
That's so frustrating.
Yes, it was. So.
So don't do that.
Don't do that.
And if you do, so another thing too, they do with like the emails, and they'll make it look exactly like a PayPal or whatever. And somebody's logged into this, suspicious this, or send an email. Anytime I get that, I just delete it and then I log in, not through that link, but completely separately. Because it's just so easy, and if there's
They've made them look so good now.
It's exactly the same.
Yeah. They used to
the prince from whoever needs your money. No, everybody knows that story.
Right.
Well, not everybody
still fall for that one too.
Not everybody, but most of the time they've gotten super good. Like, the address is the same. It's not like, Facebook, fuck off, drive. Right. It's like, the same address.
It used to be spelled wrong. You could always pick up. Another thing we tell clients is hover over the link. Many times, don't click on it. Hover over it. When you hover over it, it's telling you where it's really going. So even though the link says it's PayPal.com, you hover over it and it's not, right? But they've gotten so good at, vishing, smishing, phishing, all these names we can come up with. They even, when they call you now, if you have a landline, but even on your cell phone, they can make it look like it is Bank of America. So you're answering, so Bank of America's calling me. And you're like, well, yes, I must answer this.
Yeah. No, don't do it. So investing. We did get a handful of questions on investing, and this is not going to be like a deep dive into investing, just kind of a touching the surface, a little 101 on investing. So there's obviously many different types. So just kind of go over, I guess, some basic types of investing. How much? Do you need a financial advisor for this? Is this something you can handle on your own? Obviously, this is going to be to scale.
Absolutely.
Is this just you have a business with 100 employees? Yeah, you probably need a financial advisor. But if it's just you and your family, maybe not. So what are some tips there?
There's 3 ways to invest. Number 1, on your own. 100% on your own. Obviously, there's no fee. You're not paying yourself, right? You might have to pay a fee to the platform that you're using. Some places give a certain amount of free trades. But you got to know what you're doing, and you got to watch it, right? So I have really good friends that are in the business that do both, right? They play with their own, and they also invest, in a larger scale. But if you don't know what you're doing, investing on your own is really silly. If you get a hot stock tip, that's, it's kind of like taking it and putting 21, all on black, right? You go into the horse race and saying, I like that horse, put all my money there, because you could potentially lose it. We never have anybody put all their money into one basket, right? What a lot of people like to do now is, and there's so many platforms for this, is invest online, but with someone, guidance. So kind of considered, I hate this word, but like robo-advisor, right? But you're basically, Bank of America, Merrill has it, Fidelity has it, all the places have it. You go on and you tell a little bit about yourself. So I'm this age, I'm single, I'm married, I have this much, this is my job, and my risk tolerance is, this. Obviously, somebody like you who says, well, I don't want to lose anything, we've taught you now that you have to learn that that's not right for you. But if you're telling a robo-advisor, somebody at,
Moderate.
moderate. If you're telling somebody like, so we have Merrill Lynch is where our full advisors are, and then Merrill Edge is our less trading platform where it's all online, less conversation. You're still going to get a lot of great products, and you're going to get a nice blend of what's right for you at a lower cost. And then you look at a full financial advisor. And when is it important to have a full financial advisor? Most reputable firms have advisors that, aren't really going to bring you in as a client. If your assets, your investable assets, I'm going to say in the low end is $250. At Merrill, we're $250. Some might do $100, but it's usually $250. Within that scope, and again, whether it's Merrill, whether it's, any other company out there, which I won't share any other company names, but some advisors won't take clients in unless their assets are at $5 million, or, 10 million, 1 million, whatever it is, because that's how they've built their book. The younger the advisor, usually the lower they'll allow in. Or if you have a family member who has been working with an advisor, they can bring you in what they call into the household. They're not mixing your money together, but they don't mind taking care of you. That's how you started. So your grandmother was a client, and me working there, totally different. But you were able to have a smaller amount of money in there. They charged you based off of her fee, because the fees can range. You're going to spend probably, very fair is about 1% of your portfolio is going to go to that.
That you invest.
Of what your holdings are.
Okay.
So if you've got, $500,000 in there, you're going to see a 1% fee. The idea is, though, that an advisor is making sure that they're keeping in touch with you. As you have to have a yearly conversation with Scott. He might talk to you more often, but he has to log that. That's part of our responsibility, is that we are having that conversation with you.
The biggest difference between doing it on your own
Absolutely.
versus not, because it's just like anything. There's less fees, but then if you're not staying on top of it, it's just kind of like the credit card debt. If you just don't look at it, then you
have to rebalance your portfolio all the time, because you have to think
it's constantly changing.
You have stocks, you have bonds, you have all these things going on, and your life is changing. As we talked earlier, where you are in your life today versus where I am in my life right now, and where I'm going to be hopefully in a year, all total different balancing of what you need to do. The other thing an advisor is going to help you with in most firms, but specifically, again, speaking of Merrill and Bank of America being an investment company and a bank all together, is that they're going to help you with everything. They're looking at all of your cash flow. They're having those conversations with you about, how's your business been this past year? Are there any upcoming changes in that business? And, do you foresee, needing to buy, a warehouse, a building, a new car? A lot of times they have the ability to help you with that, because think of Bank of America and Merrill, right? An advisor says, oh, I've got somebody that I work with that does mortgages. Let me connect him with you. And you're going to get a discount because you're banking with Bank of America and investing with Merrill. And that might not happen at all firms, but a lot of times you're going to find that with an advisor. Also, an advisor is going to ask you about what type of insurance do you have. People say, I'm young, I don't need life insurance. Well, that might be true, but if you have somebody who depends upon you for income, a spouse, a child, if you were to die, if you don't have the proper insurance set up for them, what's going to happen? Your income is no longer there. What if you're in a type of work that potentially you need your own type of disability income? If you got hurt, you couldn't work. What happens now? How do I feed my family? You could have a disability income that you could purchase that would actually pay you maybe 60, 75% of your salary if you were out of work for a particular reason. So an advisor is going to do more than just invest your money in stocks and bonds. They're going to look at your whole financial picture and keep you financially healthy, like we talked about, staying fit. And that's why they meet with you every year, because everything does change. Sometimes it's a very simple conversation. Nothing's changed, but many times, it can be, if you're planning to have a baby or you're planning to move or buy a second home, whoa, let's rebalance what we've been doing.
It's just like anything. It's another person. Unless you want to spend a lot of time looking into this and really staying on top of it, it might help to outsource it. And like I said,
And you can have
they're
both.
getting that fee because they're in it too. You know, they don't
Oh,
want to
yeah.
lose money. They want to make that money.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. Their
it actually is a
not just their reputation's on the line, their license is on the line.
Yeah.
I mean, any complaint that you have against an advisor, I mean, that can get somebody, you know, it's called a U5. It's public knowledge. Anybody sees that if you haven't been taking care of them. But they also have links sometimes, or help to a CPA, or they might be able to help you with so many different things. 401k specialist to set up if you are a sole practitioner like yourself and you don't have the ability to contribute to a 401k traditionally like I do through a company. Maybe an IRA was good for a short period of time, but now you're making really good money. You need to set up a 401k to help yourself and if you have potential employees. So,
with a lot of that.
There's so much that an advisor can help you with if you need it. But I also say if you like trading and you want to do something fun and crazy, I wouldn't say fun and crazy, but know what you can tolerate. But
that is an option, but
well, it is. And you and I took some money and we went off and bought our own, with the guidance of friends in the business. But we went out and bought something that would not traditionally be in our portfolio because we really believed in the sector. And it's not doing phenomenal right now, but it will eventually take off. And if not, we knew that was our little money that we said we could afford to lose, right? If we lost it all, we weren't going to cry about it. So that would be the only thing. I would not, go by investing for dummies and say, oh, let me go put all my, right? That's the book. I think it's Investing for Dummies.
Probably.
Yeah. That's a great book to read if you want to learn about stocks and bonds, sure. But don't go take everything that you have and put it in there. Seek some side of counsel. Even if you go into your local bank, again, doesn't have to be Bank of America. They've got somebody sitting there, and it will be the investment side. It's not the big Merrill Lynch guys, but there's somebody at a desk that help you into that robo-advising.
Point you in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
And lastly, just to touch on, because there were a few specific questions with like cash-based business, and like we talked about, you said that flexible income, like inconsistent income. So I like the word flexible income. That sounds a lot better. Flexible income. So when you're in that position, so mainly you are making cash, or maybe mainly you do have a flexible income. Stuff like buying a home and budgeting. What are the best ways there? Would that just be maybe saving when you have a good month, putting more away because then you had weather the storm for the lower months? I don't know. These people might have seasonal work, right? Like, hey, this is busy season, this is slow season.
Yeah.
What would be the ways for more traditional things like investing, budgeting, buying a house with those types of incomes?
Two different things. Buying a house when you are a cash worker is separate than saving or budgeting. Like I had said, saving and budgeting, I would easily say make sure you have 9 to 12 would be the best months. I'm very conservative of your hard bills all saved in a savings account, and that would be, it could be the most simple savings account. It could be a CD, but I'm talking about anything that's not invested in the market, right? That's your cash money. That's your emergency money. When you're looking to buy a house, though, when you are paid cash, any business owner, such as yourself or anybody who's just paid cash, what do we like to do? We like to stick it in our pocket and not tell Uncle Sam, because every penny you make is taxable, right? So we have clients, for the 40 years that I've been in the industry, I've done everything from soup to nuts in the financial spectrum. I used to do lending for a very, very long period of time, specifically mortgage lending. And clients would come to me that own their own business and say, so how much do you make? I make $300,000 a year. It's fabulous. I'm going to see that on your returns. Well, I don't know, Okay, well, that's going to matter because you have adjusted gross income, and you have total income, you have pass-through income, right? But all that money has to be, you have to pay taxes on it. And when we go to give you a mortgage, or any lender goes to give you the mortgage, it's not, again, I'm a server, I have friends that own landscaping businesses, get a lot of cash, right? If you're not reporting that, and you make $300,000 a year, but I look at your tax return and it says you make 60, you're going to get a loan based off of your current year, what you're doing. If you're a business owner, you're going to have to show how that's trending this year. If you're a regular worker that gets a W-2, you're going to just show your pay stub. They're also going to look at, for everybody, the past 2 years. An individual cash worker or a business owner like yourself, they're going to scrutinize that. Why was last year, was it an anomaly and you just had great sales? Why did it drop? Because it was COVID, but we're not out of COVID yet, supposedly. How is your income going to go? How are you trending? So if you're buying a house and you are a cash worker, or you have the foresight that you want to buy a house, that's like one of those medium saves, right? Not short term, medium term, not long term, because that's more kids schooling and retirement. You better start showing, unless you have a spouse who has enough income, right? You want to always know, and you can go at any time to any bank and do a pre-qual. Right now, based off of what we make, here's my stuff, what can we qualify for, what size of a house, and what size of a mortgage. Because the other thing is about cash. If you say, I've got cash for a down payment, they want to see where it is. If it's under your mattress, it doesn't count. Because now they think you're running guns, selling drugs, right? Why are you not keeping it in the bank? People don't want to keep it in the bank. They're afraid of the bank. They don't know why. It's the safest place to keep your money. But if you don't have that in the bank, because the first thing they're going to ask you for is 2 months, the last 2 months of those bank statements. So if you just put it in, you run to the bank, you've had $50,000 stuffed under your mattress, you put it in, you got to wait 2 months now. Some banks 3 months to get 3 months worth of statements to see where that came from. Even if you get a gift, let's say, I was going to gift you money. You were going to gift me money to buy a house. That has to be a gifted letter. It's got to show that it came out of your account. It's got to show that it was in your account for 2 months. So cash is a tough thing because nobody wants to pay taxes on it. But if you're planning on buying a house, you're going to want to know that ahead of time. But for budgeting, be on the safe side and really just try to keep 12 months worth because you just never know how it's going to be.
If you take one thing from that,
Yes.
we've said it like 4 times, so let's really try. But I think this would be really useful. There's a lot of stuff in here that I think, unfortunately, a lot of people don't know, right? Obviously, I've had the luxury of knowing a lot of this because of you. But there's so many people out there, especially just even with the budgeting stuff. It's so easy to get away from us, just like everything else, right? Like you just get in a routine and you start spending and you don't even recognize. So if we can get people to start budgeting, understanding money better. I know this is not our typical podcast topic, but I still think that we've been wanting to do more interviews, and I have been wanting to just branch out a little bit because I still think this is useful. I know it's not the normal coaching podcast, but it's still useful information for people. So we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please share with your friends and subscribe on YouTube in particular. Danielle, who edits our podcast, always tells me to say that. So please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And for all other coaching inquiries or information, you can visit teamlocofit.com. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.